Hey everyone, the purpose of this channel is to have difficult conversations in a more excellent way based off the Bible verse 1 Corinthians 12:31. So let's get into it. Like some people do research only on TikTok. I sometimes find myself doing research only on YouTube. Like, what does YouTube have to say about training my dog? What does YouTube have to say about creating content? What does YouTube have to say about how I should live my Christian life? And not that those things are bad, but it should be the supplement, not the main source. Hey everybody, welcome to A More Excellent Conversation. Today's topic is about media. We're gonna have a more excellent conversation about media. And again, if you guys enjoy the content, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. I love the comments. I appreciate everybody commenting, super encouraging. And also comment what type of video you would like me to have a more excellent conversation about. Next week, I'm gonna be making like a series on media channels that, I enjoy, that I advise. They're Christian media channels. So I've been noticing a lot of patterns about media in general. When I say media, I want to quickly define it. When I say media, I'm talking about TV, movies, social media. I'm kind of talking about it all in totality, right? How much I consume media just by looking at my screen time, and I'm spending 9 to 10 hours a day on my phone, and I realize, wow, they caught me in the matrix. They caught me in the media matrix, having to go to media every single second, needing to be stimulated every single second, every single hour, every single day. Maybe that's not your experience, but it's definitely mine. And me just noticing these things has made me want to have a more excellent conversation about it. So I noticed that not only myself, but when I'm in gatherings, a lot of my friends sometimes will talk and interact, but a lot of the times when there's dead time, we go straight to our phones. And I'm like, I don't always remember life being like that, at least growing up. So I started to question and contemplate why we feel this need to do so. And I noticed a bunch of patterns that media seems to push, right? So one of them is, of course, being influenced by influencers. And right now I'm just talking about social media specifically. So we see influencers not only just living this lifestyle, but finding an alternative path to a career. So we see them and how they're making all this money from doing social media, posting on social media, gaining all this influence. So we're kind of subconsciously inspired to kind of do the same thing. So I noticed that in my own life, especially since I'm making content. I'm technically a content creator. Come on, talk about it. So I'm noticing like, okay, at the end of the line, I have this idea in my brain that this is gonna lead me to success and money. Right? So me putting in all this work, doing all this editing, making all these videos, I'm going to be able to provide an income for my family. Right? So that's in the back of my mind as I'm consuming media, watching media, and kind of trying to navigate it for myself. And I wonder if this applies to everybody else. Like subconsciously or consciously, whichever, it doesn't necessarily matter. So that's one point I wanted to make. And another point is how media influences us to consume it more. So not only influencers, but media itself. So ads are targeted to what you look up, what you're interested in, keywords that you say. Like your phone is always monitoring you, kind of getting you hooked, if I may say, on relying on it for everything. And another point I'm going to talk about is AI in a little bit, but now it has us relying on it to a point where we won't even go and read a book. Instead, we're going to go straight to Google instead of, we'll do surface level research on Google instead of, diving into a book that talks about the topic or talking to somebody who, knows more about the topic. So I found that super interesting that we would rather go straight to Google than actually learn about the topic in a deeper research level. So that's another point. So when I say it has us hooked in the matrix, it has us hooked into relying on it in such a absorbent way. Like some people do research only on TikTok. I sometimes find myself doing research only on YouTube. Like, what does YouTube have to say about training my dog? What does YouTube have to say about creating content? What does YouTube have to say about how I should live my Christian life? And not that those things are bad, but it should be the supplement, not the main source. The main source of our information should be credited sources, like primary sources like books or people's lived experience, but our primary sources are secondary sources. What does surface level research say? What does this YouTuber say? What does this influencer say about this topic? So I found that so super interesting. And now thinking about AI and ChatGPT, like how influential that can be, relying on people to help us out. We just have this personal assistant. I use ChatGPT to help me with thumbnails, to help me with titles for my podcast, to help me do research because it goes a little bit deeper than YouTube. But it's a tool used to do the heavy lifting, and I get that. I support that completely, but not if my sole reliance is on it. I noticed that pattern just in myself, and I'm wondering if it applies to others. And then finally, my last point is that it's not bad to want these things, right? It's not bad to want to become, funded through media, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But when it's our main and sole focus and it influences the rest of our lives, I can see an issue with that. I get posting as a Christian creator or posting, to promote your clothing. I'm okay with that. But there's a difference between posting and consuming. So I get posting your content, but consuming 4 to 10 hours a day on Instagram is overconsumption. So I believe that everything is good in moderation, and I have no problem with that. And I just think there's a more excellent conversation to be had about it. And now I want to briefly talk about movies. So sometimes the messages that movies kind of put out are super duper worldly, right? And the Bible tells us in Romans 12:2, it says, "Do not conform to the ways of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that by testing we or you may discern what is the will of God, what is good, acceptable, and perfect." So in that verse, we're not supposed to conform to the way that this world is doing, where it's catching us in the matrix of being supplemented to consuming all this media. We can use it as a tool. There's nothing wrong with that. But overconsumption, it can be gluttony or lust in a way, because lust is just any overconsumption of anything. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with, watching a movie, even a day if you're doing it to, spend time with somebody, or you want to go through this movie. But binge watching a bunch of movies, or binge watching a bunch of shows, or binge watching a bunch of YouTube videos, I would say that's overconsumption. But there's nothing wrong with moderation. If you're watching 2-3 videos a day, or you're trying to get inspiration on how to post content, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the overconsumption, the way that the world has us, where people have children and just give their children devices to watch on a screen. That's the pattern of the world. And God's calling us to be separate from that pattern and establish His ways. And His ways are usually slow, steady, and wise, with planning and being thoughtful. And you see that all in the book of Proverbs, where God is saying that the foolish are confounded to foolish ways, but the wise plan, right? So there should be a difference. We should not be looking the same as the world, especially in this media aspect. So in my next video, I'm going to talk about some social media content creators that I really respect, and watching their videos in moderation has helped me with my walk. But over consuming is the issue. I hope that this video was encouraging, as convicting as it was for me, as for you, and I hope that it encourages you to walk more closely with Christ, that it encourages you to show His glory in everything that you do, including on your downtime. Because at the end of the day, sometimes that overconsumption is soothing or escapism from the realities of this world. And I'm just feeling it because I'm kind of stuck immobile at the moment with my injury. So I'm kind of seeing it firsthand, where as I would rather run to a distraction than to read something that will edify me. I'd rather run to a distraction than to work on issues that I have in my own life. I'd rather run to a distraction than to deal with my sin, to fight my sin. So I just hope that it's encouraging to you guys. And if you enjoyed this video, of course, like, share, subscribe, comment, and I'll let you guys get into it.